Oh yeah! That's basically what it's gonna be, Daps. How's it going, Dan? How's it going, Daps? Happy Saturday. Hi. Hey everybody. How's it going?
There's a new video game. And
there is a new video game.
On it.
Oh, we have many opinions on it. Welcome, Space Ghost. Welcome, Rube. Everyone's here like, oh, they're gonna trash Elden Ring. We gotta be there for it.
At least two opinions.
Right. They're right. We are gonna trash Elden Ring. We're gonna say some good stuff about it.
I don't think
too.
trash. I think that there's a lot of really good stuff that they did in Elden Ring.
What we're gonna say is gonna come across as trashing Elden Ring to almost everybody who listens to it, because Elden Ring has like a 9.8 out of 10 on all the review sites, which we all know means absolutely nothing. I'm gonna give it a 4.20.
Because it doesn't mean anything, so you might as well.
Yep. Mostly loved it. Have you finished it? Silence.
And I wasn't even mostly.
Yes, okay.
No, Space Ghost has finished it. Very good. I wasn't even playing with a colossal greatsword. Daps.
Yeah, neither was I.
A regular greatsword.
Yeah, I wasn't playing with a colossal mace. I was playing with a great mace. Dark Souls 3 is a better game.
That's a spicy take, and I disagree.
I actually enjoyed playing through Dark Souls 3 and found, yeah. There are there's many colossal weapons. Maybe you found two, but there are a whole bunch in the colossal category.
Oh yeah, there's tons.
You never beat DS3. I enjoyed it. I mean, there was some crap bosses, but the good bosses more than made up for it, and the crap bosses weren't so over-bloated that you had to beat your face on them for 3 hours. You could just kind of brute force through them if you really wanted to.
Yeah, I found Dark Souls 3 fine. It was a fine game.
Less crap than DS2.
DS2 was also fine.
Yeah. All in all, Dark Souls FromSoft has a lot of fine games now, and a couple absolutely fantastic, but they've still never made a terrible game.
No, they have not made a bad game since Miyazaki took the helm on the Souls series.
That's going to be interesting. You've only beaten Dark Souls 1, Sekiro, and Elden Ring. Well, you've beaten their two best games. Two of their three best games, sorry.
There you go. I was going to be like, are you
my brain just forgot about something there. Just like, oh wait, that exists! Hold on! Dark Souls 1 definitely has the best difficulty design. I'm going to go with Bloodborne on that. Actually, Sekiro.
Yeah, I gotta agree. I do think Bloodborne and Dark Souls 1 are both fantastically scaled difficulty-wise, but the Sekiro is just so tight and controlled.
It's the bar.
It's so good.
Sekiro's the bar, but for Souls-likes in difficulty scaling, my personal pick for my favorite Souls-like on difficulty scaling is Bloodborne.
There, I said it.
You only have to grind if you suck. It's true. And honestly, Dap, my response to fighting a boss and running out of blood vials is not to go farm. My response was, oh, I'm down to like 30, 40 vials. Well, I better stop
I just
healing.
Don't heal anymore.
And then I just worked on the boss until, I was like, oh, I'm just going to stop healing and dodge and work on the mechanics and focus on the mechanics and focus on the mechanics. Then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, hey, I haven't healed this fight and the boss is down to like 20% health. It's safe to start using my heals now and I'll push myself through the end. And I never need to farm that way. It's totally doable. There is no necessity to farm in that game. But it is a trap. I admit there is a trap that makes people think they have to farm.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's not actually a necessity. You can totally do it without healing. How are people playing the
And you
game
just
that
get
are ending up
so
in
much-
a failure state? Well, they're not
You just get
learning
so
the
much
combat.
damage in Bloodborne. So much damage.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the big thing with Bloodborne on that one is when people keep dying and dying and dying and dying and ending up in that failure state, 90% of the time, my personal experience from watching other people and helping correct them, I only have to say one thing to them, and they stop dying all the time and start doing well. And that is, start dodging forward. And the whole game just becomes easier.
Mm-hmm.
And then you try to dodge forward in Elden Ring, and they track 180 and just instantly kill you. I'm gonna engage with this boss! Dead. Oh. All right. So, I guess we're starting on a positive note, so that's nice. I like starting on positive notes. And it looks like the review structure for Elden Ring is going to be a positive sandwich with a shit meat.
I was not ready for that. Not ready for that phrase.
Yes, it is specifically designed to roll catch you. 100%. That is the design of the game.
Strong disagree, Daps.
Yeah, I prefer the late game, except for the scaling. I guess I prefer the mid game. The mid game is the golden era. When you've gotten your pluses up to a good level and you can just kind of push through and have fun with the enemies. Yeah. After you're done all the boring running around, mindless beginning stuff and have gotten enough energy to realistically challenge all those things in the first area. Because the mobs are never a challenge in the first area. They're just pushovers. And then everything that isn't...
The mobs are never a challenge, full stop.
Until you get to the later areas.
No, they're still not a challenge. They're just damage sponges.
Oh no, they've got boss movesets in those areas. They're dumb. They've got roll catches. They've got tons of health. They're hard to stagger. They've got tight timing. They're dumb. They're dumb. Some of those later enemies are just stupid. Figuring out how to get the power to level up is pretty shitty. Yep, especially because they give you absolutely no idea on how to do it. They just point you right to a strong boss and like, here you go. Go figure it out. Staggering is irrelevant in endgame. I know, and it was such a beautiful add to the system, and that's what I went around, because every time I play one of these games, I play with the new mechanics. Surprise, surprise, I want to check out new mechanics. Go figure. And the new mechanics in Elden Ring were just... I mean, they were wonderful as mechanics.
And
but their
when
implementation...
they could be effectively used, they continue to be fantastic.
Yeah. Implementation of them was very sad, though. Caelid entirely can just fuck off. The whole area can just fuck off. Sad part is the lack of staggering removes so much potential attack windows and lack of parry. There's no lack of parrying in the game. There is more parrying in Elden Ring than just about any other From game.
Except for Sekiro.
Yeah. Although, well, let's deflect, not a parry.
It's a parry. You can call it whatever you want. It's striking another weapon with your weapon out of the way.
I realize.
It's a parry.
Although the parry uses a shield. Just
You can parry with a shield, and a shield is a weapon. You ever been hit with a shield? I have. It hurts.
Some bosses you have to parry 3 times even. But that doesn't mean there's a lack of parrying. That just means you need to be better at parrying to get your opening on the boss. And I'm fine with that. I am. That's going into like a Sekiro style system, but...
Yeah, it really needed to be taught to you, because that is not obvious at all. Mm-hmm. But I'm honestly okay with that system.
Yeah, yeah. I actually like the fact that they let you parry so many more enemies. The only boss you could parry was Crucible Knight. Well, I've actually seen video of people running up to Margit naked and just parrying him to death with a parrying dagger and a dagger.
Parrying dagger strong.
We've been having fun watching rage compilations on Radahn. Margit worked too. Didn't even realize you could call NPCs when you... Yeah, all of those white signs all over the field are all summon signs. Yeah. So shall we start with world building? You want to talk about some world building first?
Sure.
Because they actually did a pretty good job there. Even though it's feels like another Souls world. I didn't feel like the world was super special. I'm saying,
but did you feel?
That's just me. I didn't get a super special feel from anything. I did have a sense of wonder, though.
Did you get that feel because you've played so many other Souls games?
I don't know.
Because the world's like you said, it definitely induced that sense of wonder, and like as somebody who played the game by, okay, where's the upgrade cave? Yeah, here's my upgrade stones. Okay, where's the boss? I still enjoyed the world building quite a bit. The thing that sort of caused me to wash over a lot of it is just because I was like, yes, this is what I expect from Miyazaki and from Software's A-Team.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, it's not bad world building. Definitely not. It's still from soft quality world building.
Yeah.
I found the George R.R. Martin element completely invisible. It just seems like a Hidetaka game.
Yeah, it seems like he only had a kind of a bit of a role. I think they probably just took a bit of inspiration from the work he provided and then just kind of did their own thing. Seems like it was just a bit of world building that he had help on.
Yeah. He, as I understand, he wrote the general story and then Hidetaka took his framework and just Hidetakaized it. Made everything freaky and monsterish and makes a way better game than a bunch of humanoids. It does. It would have been really boring if it was just all humans in the game.
Yeah, R.R. Martin said that himself as well, that he's not a gamer, so he wrote a story for different mediums, and different mediums need to have certain things for them to translate well. So to bring it over to the gaming world, you're going to need variations in things, and you can do all humanoid stuff, but it's, I think, to the skill set that they have with their bosses, it allows them to have a lot more room to work with mechanics and stuff like that if they're not all just humanoid.
100%. They would have fallen into some really upsetting boss traps if there was 81 bosses in an all humanoid game.
Well, 81 bosses, but we'll get into that later.
Yeah, well, I guess there would be more than 81 too, because most of them is just multiple enemies in a fucking room. Yeah, we'll definitely touch on that, but I can vision it in my head. Just picture it. Hidetaka walks up to the boss designer, senior boss designer for FromSoft, and goes, "We're gonna need 81 bosses for this new game." And he looks at Hidetaka and goes, "No." The world building is on par for other FromSoft games. It was not surprising, but it still carried that feeling of wonder and discovery.
And I would say that still qualifies it as a good. It's just not transcendent.
Totally worth playing just to explore the world. I can honestly say that. So, I can give it a good. Definitely has good world building. That's probably its biggest strength.
Definitely up there.
Yeah.
Definitely up there.
Characters. I want to start with Pseudo because he was outside looking in and seeing the characters. What characters do you actually remember? Did any of them stick with you?
Yeah, I mean, Melina, or if I pronounced that right. If I remember the actual name of that.
Thankfully, I never got to her.
I've been watching the other stuff go through. But I'm bad with names, which makes it even worse when I'm not in the game myself. But that kind of
describe a character.
Yeah,
Deus and I have both been watching other playthroughs.
Yeah, I guess to answer your question, none of them really have fully stood up for me, but it's not like I was fully immersed in it either. I've been kind of busy for me, but the design of them I did like. I did like how I didn't just feel. They still felt different from other From games. to me. Like I didn't just feel like it was, you know, like a Demon Souls or a Dark Souls kind of like always a massive big bad that, you know, will take up an entire room. Well, like there was still, and just like the ones that just have a lot of limbs, a lot of other creepy stuff sticking out of them too. I was like, that's freaky. But like the design is fine. I'm not too sure other than that. And like I said, I wasn't fully immersed in it, but there was nothing that really, you know, turned me off from it, or I found that was, you know, I could really complain about either.
The typical Souls shock value. Yeah.
I would say it's leaning more into Bloodborne.
That's fair. That's fair. There was some very Bloodborne-y areas, wasn't there? I did very much notice that I'm like, ooh, we're in Bloodborne here. Ooh, we're in Dark Souls here. And it was like, every area felt like a reference to some other From time. And I'm fine with that. I really was. I really enjoyed the Bloodborne-y areas, other than the fact that they mostly involved Rot, and fuck Scarlet Rot.
Yeah. Yeah, fuck Scarlet Rot.
Blaidd was your favorite
characters?
because Welsh and Blaidd means wolf.
Blaidd means wolf in Welsh.
Because you're Welsh. Okay. Because Welsh and Blaidd is just... Blaidd sounds like... Yeah, that was confusing.
Syntax.
Yeah.
But character-wise, I found them a lot more compelling than in most From Software games. I enjoyed the interactions that you had with them. There's some really cool characters later in the game. I think they're overall well written, and they bring a nice level of life to the world, if that makes sense. And the way that their stories intertwine is very interesting, and I think that was really well done.
Big agree. The Filth Eater stands out as a character to me. He's a very interesting character. I didn't get much information on him. I never even got to fight him, but he was an interesting character. I really like the whole Maidens of the Two Fingers and the Two Fingers. Actually getting to meet the Two Fingers was really strange. Like, what? Who's what now?
And then there's names are hard, but the lady in the volcano, very cool. Really like that whole cadre of characters that they've got up there.
Yeah. The four-armed witch, and there's a lot of personality in the game. Oh, the Turtle Pope.
Yeah, Turtle Pope. I love the Turtle Pope.
I didn't do the assassination quest. I think I killed the first target of it, but then I kind of dropped off. But yeah, I think the characters have more personality in this game. They're better built. They're better introduced. It's easier to follow them. And the only game I would say had better characters than Elden Ring was probably Sekiro, just because it allowed it to build it so much more. It allowed it to give them more personality.
I would say that they're on par, honestly. Like there's definitely a more concentrated cast in Sekiro, which helps a lot.
Yeah.
But I would say that the character writing was probably on par, in my opinion, between Elden Ring and Sekiro.
Maybe I didn't dig deep enough. I still think Elden Ring is good, but I think the ability to dig into the actual background and lives on such a deep way of Orangutan and Emma and Genichiro and I got sucked into that one. I didn't like the world nearly as much as in Sekiro, but I loved the characters.
Yeah. As somebody who is a giant weeb, the world was more known to me, and I was able to intuit a lot more.
I'm sorry.
I was Babel to intuit a lot more. Not sure where I was going with that anymore.
That's my fault.
My train of thought is gone.
Just derailed.
Oh, good times. I'm just getting the follow along with the review sign up here. Play, go. There we go. Now you guys can actually join it. Oh, there. Yeah, okay. What do we want to say about the characters? What do we physically want to say? Some of the story of Elden Ring, and especially around Renala, I think is heavily based on the tale of the bamboo cutter, an ancient Japanese tale. Hidetaka does borrow very, very, very deeply from Japanese mythology and Japanese philosophy when he writes his stories, so wouldn't surprise me at all. Wouldn't surprise me at all. You'd be amazed at how much of Bloodborne's story is actually Japanese lore. The characters stand out more in Elden Ring than most Souls-likes. They have a nice amount of depth and are more followable to actually learn about them. They also included more speech lines and more ways to interact / fight with them, which I'm not huge on, but some people really like that stuff.
Yeah. And apparently a bunch of the quests were broken on release, or at least unfinished. And the recent patch that they released actually finished up all those storylines.
Good thing I didn't go finish the game. I may play it again one day. So we're at good on characters, I guess. Huh?
I'd say so.
Good thing they had a quest tracker. You'll play it next year.
Hi.
Hey, board. Welcome. Storyline. What do we think of George R.R. Martin's story?
So I haven't finished the game, and I haven't finished watching the playthrough that I was watching. So my impressions are incomplete. But from what I got out of the game, it is a fairly straightforward story that is really fleshed out by the characters in the world building. And I think that it being straightforward allows for all of the additional work in the characters and the world building that really does make those two things stand out. I'm at an okay with the storyline.
I feel like the story drove a lot of mystery and intrigue for me. One of the few reasons that drove me to keep wanting to play the game was the story, to find out what's been happening. I mean, beating the game and having no idea what actually happened isn't... I mean, unless you're like really following the story and trying to diagnose it, that's the norm for a Souls-like. I've never finished a Souls-like and understood the story at the end of the game. Of all of the ones I've played, and that's all of them. That's pretty much it. If you understand...
Did you play Clunky Souls?
No, I didn't play that one.
That's not all of them then.
Yeah, I know. But I'm not going to play that one. No, that's not going to happen. But yeah, if you get to the end of a Souls game and you understand the story, then it wasn't a Souls game. That's my stance on that. Key
Either
element.
that or your Vadi.
I mean, even Vadi doesn't understand the story at the end of it. He has to spend a couple more weeks diagnosing and picking through and reading and creating a database so that he can query names and get all the information about it. I guarantee you that's what he's doing. It's the only way you could keep it all straight. I was tempted to make an SQL database out of the Bloodborne lore so that I could query character names and stuff and get all the lore text on them while I'm doing my research. You're about halfway through the game, you just got past the capital, and the story for you has changed direction.
Yeah, it seems like there's a couple of different paths after the capital, but they may or may not be meaningful.
Oh, I definitely was given an alternate path in story, Dap. There are definitely multiple ways to go with different endings. So, like, originally... minor spoiler, I guess not even minor spoilers, story spoilers, warning. But yeah, I mean, there is one point where you can either like gain the power of the Erd tree or just, you know, burn it to the fucking ground, as an example. Some of the side quests are triggers depending on when you do them. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that in these games usually. Even just completing NPC side quests in Dark Souls required doing the right things in the right orders and being in the right spot at the right time. Otherwise, you miss it and it's done. Yeah, I'm not sure on the path to the destination though, and what the actual ending will be like. It'll still change. There was an NPC at the start that disappeared from the round table. Well, I mean, the illusion of multiple choice is most games with multiple choice. What's one with real multiple choice? Sekiro. That's one with actual multiple choice. You can cut the whole game in half and get completely different bosses. That is a multiple choice.
Yep. And that's the reason why one of those paths is super short, because as it turns out, making those stories into an actual video game is very expensive.
You may have killed 2 NPCs so far. That's just me in Souls games. Rage watches me play a Souls game and he's like, oh look, Deus is killing innocents again.
Yay!
What was it? Well, the last one I did that in a lot was fucking Darkwood. Every time an NPC wouldn't give me what I wanted, I just fucking axed them. Fucker.
Yeah, it made your game a lot harder.
The story is intriguing and mysterious and a driving force to keep the player moving forward. It is the one element of the game that almost kept me playing it. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I'm high okay to good. Not hard to convince me of a good.
I still think the story is worth a good. I think you could play the game just to figure out the story. I think you'd have a painful time because it's a painful game. But I think the story is interesting enough to drive that.
Yeah.
I feel the same way about Dark Souls 1 and 3 and
I think the key here is the branches. Like if you're into branching stories, then it's definitely like a storyline that will keep you coming back to the video game. I'm not. So little interesting for me to think about. Yeah, I can be convinced of a good. I'm not against it.
They've already done no-hit runs, Dap. There's been a no-hit run already.
Did Hob complete?
No, it wasn't Hob.
Was it Cool Black Dude?
I don't know. All I know is it wasn't Hob and it was finished. That's all I heard. And then I saw Hob playing Stranger of Paradise. I don't think it was 100% bosses. I don't think anybody's going to do 100% bosses no hit because nobody wants to fight bosses for 3 days to do a no hit run.
Yeah, it's just too long of a run.
They'll figure out a way. It's all about strategies. No hits are always about silly strategies. I could be okay or good as well. I think it does deserve a good though. I think it's more than just a story to deliver the player to the action.
True. However,
I'm gonna say if you were to play it for the story, I still think that they'd get quite a bit out of it as a strong suit of it. I mean, it does help the experience quite a bit.
Yeah, I think if you just wanted to, if you're fine with the combat and nothing else is going to stop you and the story is what you wanted to play it for, I don't think you'd be extremely disappointed. I mean, you're coming in knowing it's going to be a Dark Souls story, but it's still a Dark Souls caliber story.
yeah, it's still definitely a good story. You're right. The thing that sort of had me waffling was the simplistic nature of the overarching story path, which I think is fine because it allows them to focus on the characters and the world building. So
also the whole story, it may be simple, but it's also very hidden and not fed to you. So if it's too complicated, then it's too much to try to put together through little pieces.
Yeah. No, I think you're right.
70% of the players will be happy since they never reach the end game. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm experiencing. Like, when I first quit the game, everyone was like, how could you quit it? The game's so good! And then I look at the achievements, and all of the bosses that I had killed right before I quit were like 1 to 2% achievements. Like, oh, that's why I quit before everyone else. And then, as I saw those achievements reach 20, 30%, I started hearing more and more and more and more people going, yeah, I quit. Yeah, I fell off. Yeah, I lost interest. Yep, right. Whereabouts did you drop the game, and what was your major reason? I dropped the game right after I cleared everything up to the Erdtree capital and opened the path into the north, where enemies suddenly had 10 million hit points, and I had to hit wolves 5 times. Yeah. At which point I went, that's not fun! And I quit, because I had 57 strength and a plus 21 heavy great mace, where my damage scaling was more than the weapon's raw damage. It was like I was like raffle stomping things. I could double jump attack stagger bosses at that time. And then in the new area, a swing on an enemy was like 5% health. It is, yeah, the Undead Reaper is so unbalanced. Yes, it is. Yeah, what level was I? 112, 115, something like that, just over 100. Like, if I were to go to the first areas, I could probably AFK with enemies beating on me and come back alive. It's just, the power creep has gotten way out of hand late game. Way out of hand, and we're definitely going to be talking more about that. Okay, performance, bad.
Definitely at the bottom end of okay at best. So the problems with the performance in Elden Ring are not actually to do with your PC.
Yeah, it's totally
just
not
get
your
that
PC.
Out of the way.
It is totally just the game. We were throwing about as much power at the game as you can, and if you were watching when I started streaming it, not consistent frames. So far from consistent frames. Super disappointed.
Supposedly, the new patch resolves a lot of the stuttering. Not all of it, but a lot of the stuttering. I haven't tested it yet. I may do so in the future, probably not. But the performance issues were caused by problems with the DX12 implementation of the shader streaming and shader caching by FromSoft.
That's not
true,
true,
It is not your
Rubido.
PC.
That's not true at all. Sekiro performed amazingly when it came out on PC.
And Dark Souls 2 was fine.
Yeah.
It wasn't great, but it was fine.
Prepare to Die edition was not good.
PvE was terrible. Yeah.
But that was also like their first PC port, so I'll forgive that. And Dark Souls Remastered is great.
Flawless. Absolutely flawless.
As long as you have the power for it. But, you know.
It runs on the Switch. You'll be fine.
Performance is not your PC's fault. You cannot not drop frames. Just live with it until it's fixed in patches. That's all there is to it. There's nothing you can do. It's just not going to run well.
Yeah, and you will never not drop frames.
Yeah.
Dap. until they fix the implementation of their graphics pipeline.
Yeah, we can confirm for everybody watching right now, your graphics settings will have no impact on your frame drops. Do not drop your graphics settings. It's not going to help. I had identical frame drops on low and ultra. Okay? Don't do it. Just stick with your pretty settings. If it's gonna lag, it might as well look pretty while it doesn't. Requirements are about the same, and there are some areas where it drops a bit for you, mainly transitions between load zones, and their frame rate is more consistent.
With the new patch.
Oh, the new patch. Okay. Also, it was better on PS5, wasn't it? Pretty sure it was.
Nobody I watched played on PS5.
Yeah, I don't really know anybody that was playing on PS5 either, but I bet you it was less frame droppy. And Val didn't have many issues, I remember, on PS4 either, performance-wise. So it seems like mainly a PC issue. There was, but less. Why would PS5 run 20 FPS?
It has significant graphics horsepower, and the issue that they're having is shader streaming, and they've got a faster connection to the SSD.
Yeah. That doesn't make sense either. But that's okay. Oh,
Animations, though. Animations are fucking sweet. Is what they are.
There you go. Done. You summed it up. You summed it up beautifully. The game, it flows so well. Everything's beautiful. Everything's weighty. Everything's impactful. The mechanics of the animations, I can complain about, but that's about it. Visually, they're pretty.
Visually, the animations themselves are fantastic. And like, you get into some of the boss fights where there's more things going on, and you're just like, they put so much work into this attack. Wait, I have to dodge.
That's not really how it goes. It's more like, oh, I'm dead.
Yeah. I both oohed and awed over an attack and dodged it against Godric, though.
Yeah. I could see that. Godric's timings lend nicely to dodging and interacting with him, making him one of my favorite bosses.
Godric is standout, in my opinion. That is a really, really good boss.
Why so many hands? At least they only had to animate 2. Well, actually, just 1 hand, probably. The bigger version, I think, is identical to the smaller ones, just bigger. I don't think I really saw much difference. Their animation was the same for sure. Maybe slightly different modeling. But it would just be an altered model.
I liked the magic shard bearer. Whatever her name was. Renala, I think. Really liked the second phase of that fight. First phase, I really annoyed Deus, but didn't bother me because it was just like, yeah, run attack, one-shots the things, and then you just do the puzzle and 2-cycle it.
Yeah, it did. The only reason it bothered me is because I died shortly after beating it the first time in phase 2, right as I started seeing it. I'm like, I gotta do that stupid phase 1 that wasn't challenging or interesting again. But then I beat the fight on the second pull, so whatever. It is what it is.
You were like, I think 20 levels above me because you did more exploring.
Yeah, so I actually looked around.
If you go back and check my VODs, if they're still up, I don't think they are. But I actually had a really good time with that fight. It was challenging. Things were well paced. I loved it.
I really liked the caster horseback knight right before her as well. There's a caster horseback on with a lance and everything. Yeah, that was a fun fight. I liked that one.
Yeah, he was cool.
Yeah, Godric has good encounter design. Everything is fair. Yeah, everybody can agree that Godric is top tier boss in that game. For fighting, for actually having fun while you're fighting him.
And he's viable with every weapon.
Yeah. Godric is a great boss design. Style is good.
It's very much the same style as you see in the Souls games.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Like, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that whatsoever. They did, however, take it up another notch in a lot of instances. I think it's a really good iterative step on what they've been doing with the Souls games. And I believe we've called all of the Souls games so far good, so this is also good.
All of the previous games have been good, and this is a positive evolution of that. I also want to call out the weapon design. I think the weapon design came a long way compared to other Dark Souls games in this one.
For sure.
Almost challenging like Bloodborne level of weapon design, which is really cool, because Bloodborne level weapon design is just the coolest. Period. Oh, there's no builds in Bloodborne. Just grab another weapon. You're a different fucking character.
Mm-hmm.
Margit was the only boss where you used a shield for guard counters. Really forced you to switch up your gear. Yeah, we hated Margit. We just hated the entire idea of Margit. Margit wasn't the most terrible of terrible fights once you get up to the level that they really intended you to be for Margit. But they just point you to it so early. They give you no path to getting any power.
This is the big argument that Deus and I have been having about the early game of Elden Ring. Is it the area that lets down Margit, or is it Margit that lets down Margit? And I'm of the opinion that it's the area that lets down Margit.
Yep.
You just don't get enough power to fight Margit by the time you're there.
I've agreed with you many times on that. The one thing I have to say about Margit is some of his roll catches can die in a fucking fire.
The only one I had problem was the double smack into stab. Like the big...
I didn't have a problem with that one. Mainly, it was his multi-swing combo that I just could never fucking get. There was there's a roll catch right at the end. Dodge, dodge, dodge. Hey, I made it. Oh, whack. Again.
Oh, the four swing? Yeah, I have no fucking clue how to dodge that.
And then the only reason this other attack drove me insane on him was because of the low levelness, and that's that quick knife he gives you when you come in to actually fight him. It doesn't do much damage, but if you're low level, that's like half your life if they just direct you straight to him, and there's no way to dodge that. Some attacks are better to jump, some better to guard counter, some better to dodge, and some better to sprint away from. The sprinting away from is where Rage and I have a problem with it.
I want to fight the boss.
Yeah, I don't want to
run away from the boss.
Please
fight the boss.
Please let me interact with the enemy. The quick knife is definitely the real obstacle. At low health, it absolutely is. Like, you don't have enough healing or anything to live through all the quick knives that he's just going to hit you with because of your positioning and having a weapon that you need to hit him with.
Especially if you're using a big weapon.
Yeah.
It's very, very difficult if you've got a large sword.
Yep. That's one of the things that many bosses in the game suffer from is lack of cooldown from their attacks. There's just no recovery frames. Like, they finish their attack and you're like, oh, I get to actually finally do something. No, I didn't. That was not the time to do something. But the big weapon part is
where we're going wrong. Then why did they put them in the game?
Yeah. Why are they in the game if they're not viable? They should be viable. If you're going to put big, heavy weapons for the people that like to swing big, heavy weapons, make sure they're actually able to be used. There's so many attacks in the game where my big heavy weapon, even if I try to do an R1, I'm going to get smacked before I even get it off, even though I hit my R1 during their recovery. And that's not fun. Well, that's not viable.
Well, then
that doesn't mean viable. If you can only use it against some enemies in the game, it's not a viable build. You can't finish the game with it. Elden Ring was tested by one build, Miyazaki's favorite, Sword and Board. No, it was tested with sorcery, clearly.
Have you seen the Sword of Night and Flame?
Spirit Bomb.
Just Spirit Bomb everything.
Yeah, that was that one actually kind of made me salty when they one-shot that big black gargoyle thing in front of the demon, or the beast cleric. Like, what? Fuck that, that's broken. Beat the game with Pebble and Rock Throw. Which game? Elden Ring?
Wow. Yeah, that sounds not very fun.
Yeah, I would not do that. I probably could do it if I really wanted to and beat my face against the wall long enough, but that... I'm of the belief that games are supposed to be fun. It had most cheese available for caster. But it's just Pebble and Rock, you said. How is it casting anything?
No, I think he's talking about the availability of cheese for Magic users.
Oh,
of
yeah,
which
yeah.
there is quite a lot.
There is. And honestly, we'll talk about it more when we get to mechanics, but this game's builds don't feel Dark Souls to me. They feel Neo.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. But
Musical score.
We have area music. It's weird. As far as the music itself goes, I enjoyed its usage. I liked the ambient music in the areas, especially because the areas are so large and so empty. It gave you something to think about while you were in there. The music generally fits the areas. I enjoyed most of the boss themes. They didn't stand out, but they were good. They were good boss themes.
Yeah, I think this is the first Souls game I lean towards okay.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's totally serviceable. I didn't find anything stand out. The bosses that I've watched other people fight didn't really have any standout themes.
Yeah,
It's fine.
There's no Cleric Beast. There's no Maria. There's none of those. None of those moments. It just didn't happen. You agree with the musical score as well. Music gets a bit repetitive. No Glockenmeister. Did he have a good soundtrack? I don't even remember the music during Sword Saint. I'm just so focused on Sword Saint every time. Like, sure, I could listen.
Sword Saint's music is sick.
I don't even remember any of his music because I'm usually fighting him, and I'm so focused. Like, my brain can't even listen to the music. I'm just waiting for that deflect on that shit. You don't feel any epic soundtrack from Elden Ring. Yeah, I feel like they definitely took a step back in the music department, and probably because they tried to have 81 boss fights. Notice I didn't say bosses.
Too many.
81 boss fights, and how do you write 81 good boss tracks? Never gonna happen. They didn't even have a couple this time, though. The music is acceptable.
Area music exists.
Fills the void.
and is
Area
pretty good.
music works to prevent... What do we want to say? To prevent... the feeling of nothingness in world areas. At least you've got music while you're riding your horse through a field. Not just riding
An
a horse
empty
through a field.
for literally minutes.
Well, usually more seconds before I run into things, but it can feel like minutes because it's many seconds and the brain stretches that shit out.
There are definitely parts of the game where it's minutes. I'm thinking of some areas just before the capital, specifically, where you just kind of ride for several minutes.
That's true. The whole area from the lift up to the capital is basically nothing. Oh, the boss music is a definite step back. In the Souls world, perhaps too many fights for them to consider.
So I'm just cognizant of time here, and we may need to take a little break here because Pseudo had some questions that he wanted to raise, and he does need to leave early. So
We're
let's
halfway.
skip ahead to those.
So let's just stop and do Q&A for a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I got about 10 minutes, and I'll have to take off. But yeah, I guess the main thing, like I said, as an outsider, I don't really play too much, and like I saw there was difficulty and was struggling, but not really, fighting them myself or playing much of the Dark Souls. Like, what really makes this difficult different versus the previous game's difficult, and what could they have done with this one to kind of make things better? I guess is the main point. Like,
okay, we were definitely going to address that, but I do want to point out that I do want to do everything wrong with and how to fix it on this game as well later. But let's dig into it a bit here.
That definitely will happen. But
Yeah.
this will be sort of our preamble to that.
Yeah.
So one of the big things that I found with Elden Ring's difficulty, and it's very influenced by the area design, is that they have given you such a wide gate of power that you can have in every area that they have had to tune up enemies way too high.
Yeah.
Because you've got a big area and they point you to the boss. Cool. How I play these games is there's the boss. I'm going to go kill him. And in Elden Ring, that doesn't work. You can't do that.
It's not the way to go.
Because they've given you a big area and they expect you to go through all of the content in that big area to reach the level of power that they have tuned the boss for.
And I want to point out that good open world design isn't you need to do all of the content. It's go explore the areas you want to explore.
And for me, that's none. I want to go get the upgrades and then I want to go to the boss.
Which means you should be getting a nice, tight, difficult, pushed, but not ridiculous boss experience.
it seems like they could have had some like a bit more of checks and balances before the boss itself, like a big enemy or something around it that kind of is like, are you ready for this encounter coming up? Or some kind of, a little bit of direction and not just completely open. Might have been kind of like a midway point, maybe some timing, maybe some mechanic, maybe not just letting you go straight to it and then not really having much of a... It kind of seems like having the precondition of the previous games might be kind of a detriment to it as well. Whereas, like, the world could be nice and all, but, not everyone will, do that exploration, especially if they have, like, a marker just telling you where to go.
Yeah, that's the thing, is they've already given you that point.
Yeah, so then it's already kind of, giving you that motivation of, like, oh, this is, like, where I should go, rather than, like, maybe having it be, like, a general area you go to, and then saying, like, yeah, there's a big bad around in this area, from some quest dialogue or some, interactions, and then from there, it's a bit more implied that, you should probably do things around this area and then go fight the boss, rather than just having, like, the marker say, like, go here, and then it be implied that you should meet this kind of soft level before you can continue through.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I completely agree. And one of the issues that they have is that their midway bosses of an area or a section is nowhere near as tuned up as the big boss. Nowhere near.
Yeah, there's definite major difficulty spikes out of nowhere, and that's not fun. Souls usually don't have crazy difficulty spikes. They ramp it up, and they ramp it up, and they ramp it up. But if you're handling the enemies in the area, you're usually pretty set to handle the boss. And you come up to the boss in a Souls games after being able, one-shot most of the enemies in his area, and you give him a whack, and you'll take, 10%, 15% of his health in a good smack. You know what? Maybe hitting him 10 times ain't going to be easy, but it's reasonable. In this, like, okay, I'm one-shotting everything, one-shotting everything, one-shotting everything, don't even have to try, get to Margit, smack him, do like 2% damage.
Mm-hmm.
Instantly, I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to have to hit him like 100 times. I think the difficulty is pretty well telegraphed in the early game.
How so, Ash? Because I vehemently disagree with that.
Yeah, how does going straight to Margit at the very beginning of the game at like level 15 and plus 0 weapon make a good telegraph difficulty?
I think the enemies being weak and the boss being strong says a lot about the castle.
What does it say about the castle?
Kind of doesn't, though, because all the enemies that you fight in the castle after that are fine.
Yeah, to the south, it's very easy going, I agree, but you don't ever go to the south unless you just decide to go to the south. So my idea for the beginning of the game is they should point you to that south castle first. I think you would have a way better experience in the game if you went south first rather than going straight to Margit. And the game is clearly not designed for you to go straight to Margit just based on the rune value of killing Margit compared to killing that boss to the south. If you kill Margit and then you go south and kill him, you won't even get a level.
Yep.
So there's some backwards design there.
Yeah, I think it's just their first open world game, and there's a lot of kind of nuances that go into open world design. That's a lot of like, when you look at a lot of these games, it's like, sure, it's open, but there's a lot of design that goes into actually funneling players through a kind of like order of things and, of areas. And there's also like, there's games that'll have, it's open world and there's bosses, and they'll balance all the bosses kind of similarly in the point of like, you can fight one, like it doesn't matter which order you fight them, but the way to get to them will be gated with content that, makes sure that the player has, required gear or required levels to be able to, meet that challenge. So there's a lot of nuance. It's probably their first open world game. I'm excited to see what they come up with next. I think it was a really good first attempt, especially since like a lot of companies' first attempt at open world like this can
not
really,
this good.
Falter a lot harder than this is, and it's a really nuanced thing. It's a really difficult thing to do without having that linear progression. It's all implied. It's a very difficult design challenges because there's always going to be the player that will try to just kind of go through it and not do with a lot of the content, which is fine because you still have to, have a path for them to be able to kind of go or feel like they're, making a sense of progression without, forcing them to go and do what might feel like side quests to them.
Yeah, which is the problem that I was having. And that's why I sort of lay the blame at the area before Margit, because when you were approaching the castle, if things started getting significantly more difficult, rather than just being more of the slightly more difficult enemy that you fought a lot before.
They're not even slightly more difficult. They're the same enemy. They've got the red-green coats.
No, but it's the big ones. It's not the little surf guys.
Oh, they have the little surf guys up there too. They don't have the big,
but not
big
as
ones.
many. It's more the big guys.
Yep. Still the same enemies.
The same enemies, the same difficulty. They don't give you anything for resources. Like it just doesn't really do anything for you. And then when you get to Margit, you are still very low level. Like when I did my initial playthrough, I couldn't wear all of my gear without putting all of my levels into endurance. And then I got to Margit and went, wow, I just did like 2% of his health pool. I'm going to start over. And then rebuilt on a pure strength character. Put literally nothing into health and knew where the upgrade cave was. So I just ran straight there and then ran straight to the boss. And I did like 5% of his health instead. You don't get enough resources before Margit in order to fight Margit.
Margit's a wonderful second or third boss.
Oh yeah, terrible first boss.
Yeah. He is very much a Gascoigne or BSB. But he's in the position of Cleric Beast. And if you had fought Bloodstarved Beast first in Bloodborne, you would not have fun. Fifth or sixth boss. See, you're way out of order. The game's design is Margit first. That's where they point you. That's what they try to get you to do.
Like, I don't know if you saw the picture that I posted in the Elden, I think it was either Game Memes or Elden Ring channel. But the first scene that they show you as you walk out of the very beginning area points you right at the castle.
Yep.
It says, go here.
I can pull it up right now.
I think it was in Game Memes, but yeah, with all the boxes, I saw that one too.
And it's beautifully designed.
It is.
Mind-blowingly good to lead you straight to the castle. Straight there.
Yeah, but that's because the main quest in Oblivion and Skyrim is meaningless and worthless and not what the game is and not designed for you to play it at all because it's not very well-made games. Sorry, but it's just the way they are. It's just a fact. And we love that you love them. And the worlds are big and have lots of places to explore.
Anyways, I gotta tick off for school. Thanks everyone. Enjoy it.
So yeah, great to see you, Pseudo. Short story. The areas screw with the rest of the game.
Yeah. Guys, take care, everybody.
Yeah, and I'll still answer Pseudo's question even though he's gone. And my problem with the difficulty, why is this difficulty not... Oh, I already touched on it kind of when we were talking about hitting a boss and doing like 10-15% damage. Like in Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3, when you hit them with the big, slow weapon, you fucking chonk their health. Because it's a big, slow weapon, and you might only be able to hit them every 2 or 3 of their attacks. Because it's so slow. You don't get an opening every attack. Even in those games, you don't. But when you're in close, you don't have to run away. They attack slow enough that you can roll and be like, I can't attack yet. I have to prepare. Stay in close. Wait. Here it comes. Roll. This is my opening hit. That's fun. Move to Elden Ring. It's, I'm going to try to get in close. Oh, he's doing a 5,000 meter AoE. I have to run away. There's only option to turn around and run away. So we turn around and we run away. And then we're out far back and he does an attack and we roll for the attack, but he has no recovery and does an instant follow-up and smacks you. Oh, it's a roll catch. Had to walk backwards for the first one. Okay, fine. We've learned. We've learned. Yeah, some of the grabs are really, really, really ridiculous. The tracking of the attacks, it's all designed to prevent you from staying in close. It is. It forces you away from the boss. You cannot continuously dodge him in any sort of a reliable way. It prevents interacting, and you're no longer fighting the boss at this point. You're now running from him, which is what Rage always complains about in Dark Souls 3. In Dark Souls 3, it's less offensive because while you're running away from the boss, you get that opening, you charge in, you smack them with that heavy weapon, and you take 20% of their health. Yes, I could take 20% of some bosses with one good hit. You cannot do that. And having to do all of that running away to get your opening to get a 5% hit, now I have to do that 20 times? It becomes monotonous. It's no longer fun. I'm now just getting difficulty through repetition. It's basically a timer. It's the same artificial difficulty as putting a timer on your fight. Oh, players find this too easy. Let's make them do it more times in a row perfectly until they just can't do it that many times in a row.
That's not fun.
That's lazy combat. Lazy difficulty design.
For anybody who was watching me play through the first couple areas of Elden Ring, the Margit specifically, I had just a bunch of dead time in that boss fight. So much dead time where I just stand in the middle of the arena and wait because I'm like, no, I'm not fighting you over there. I'm not fighting you by the edge. I'm going to roll off the edge. I've done that once already. I've learned. You come to me. And I just sit there and wait for the boss. It's just no, I'm not interacting. I'm not doing anything. I literally put the controller down and waited for the boss.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of small, fast weapons, Dap. Not really what I like in Souls games. I like those big, heavy weapons that I can just chonk things with and bide my time and stay in close and get my opening and then make that skilled hit. But that's just not fun in this game. Because it's just not damaging enough. And the not damaging enough comes from them jacking up health. Okay, you know what? We're gonna put the okay here. We're just gonna go right up to mechanics. We're talking about it right now. Let's just do mechanics and get it out of the way.
Yeah, sure. Because this is gonna be basically the rest of the hour.
Yeah. We're in mechanics hour now, and we're gonna talk about all the reasons that the mechanics have issues.
And that's not to say that we don't enjoy the new mechanics, because the new mechanics are actually sweet.
Yep.
It's just they stop being useful around a third of the way through the game.
Problem is not the swinging, but the time before you can roll after the attack. Well, that's the attack itself. Yeah. And yeah, maybe, hey, let us roll count or animation cancel some of the ending of our attack with our roll. That would probably make the combat way more fun. Way more fun. Like, if I'm doing 5% of the boss's health per hit, I don't want to have to wait between my swings. I'm only going to get one swing off. So let me get a swing and roll, and then a swing and roll, and then a swing and roll, and then a swing and roll. The jump attack still has so many recovery frames that it hits me. Input buffering is fine. Don't spam your buttons. That's what they're teaching you. Every Souls game has input buffering.
Or use it to your advantage.
Yep.
But the big thing with the jump attack is because it has less recovery frames, and it does have less. It's still a lot, but it's less. It pigeonholes you into the only thing that you can do against a lot of bosses, and that's not fun.
Yeah. My Great Mace in most fights devolved into me just figuring out when I can jump attack and spamming jump attack on things until I can stagger them. And then I get my critical hit after the stagger, and I do like 2 hits worth of damage and just feel completely belittled and unrewarded for all of my work.
Mm-hmm.
Is pretty much what it felt like most of the time. You know, but it's your primary source of mistakes.
Yeah. The worst, though, is buffered gestures. The worst is buffered gestures in Bloodborne.
Oh, okay, yeah. So in Bloodborne, you can hold X and use the controller motions to make gestures, and you can also buffer the gestures. So if you're one of those people that like turns corners with your controller and shit like that, you'll like swing and then throw your hands into the air, and the enemy will just fucking kill you.
Or you run up to a gate because you're running past all the enemies, and then you just sit down.
Okay. You're running up to the gate and a bagman's chasing you, and then you sit down and the bagman kicks over your head 5 times, and then you just get up and leave.
Strats.
Fun fact, bagmen have one attack that they can hit you with while you're sitting down.
Ask us how we know.
Use buffering to your advantage feels great, but the times where you accidentally bump a button or roll over, not so much. Yeah, but it makes you super clean on your button presses. Sekiro also has button buffering like that, and is super ultra tight timed. So if you're like spamming the button, you're gonna get hit. Typically, it's about a 50-50. Like if you're new, spamming the button's fine because it's like a 50-50 chance. That's how tight the timings are. It'll be like a 50-50 if it's down or not when that attack lands. That's how close they're checking. It's fucking amazing. Technical masterpiece. I have no idea how they fucking pulled that off. Okay. We got sidetracked. Mechanics.
Yeah, we did. We
were talking about jump attack. We touched on the jump attack.
We were complaining about how it's virtually impossible to use colossal weapons in the game.
And that it's not that it's virtually impossible, and it is impossible to use them in a rewarding way. Let's start looking at it that way. What makes combat feel rewarding? That's what makes combat interesting. That's what people want. People want rewarding, engaging combat, right? You want to feel a sense of accomplishment.
And you want to be able to do things.
Yeah, you want to feel
Not
like
just run away.
you want to feel like you beat the boss, not you got its health down.
I was able to be patient enough to run around the arena for 10 minutes.
I waited until it died. That's what most bosses feel like. You want to fuck with them, not be fucked by them. However, I agree they should be fuck-withable, but if you fail to fuck with them, they should absolutely fuck you. And that
100%.
that is every Sekiro boss.
Except for Demon of Hatred.
What I don't never heard of this boss.
Oh yeah, it's that leftover one from Dark Souls 3 that they just kind of let wander away.
I don't think it ever made it into the game.
Yeah, you know, I heard it showed up.
I've never seen it. Both at the same time. Yeah, I agree. Both should be happening at the same time in the fight. And I don't know. I just have such a hard time understanding their boss design in this one. I feel like it was overwork. I think it's overscope. I think they just overscoped it, and they couldn't design that many bosses, and all of them suffered for it.
There are some standout bosses, though.
There are a couple good ones, but not
the small chunk of the game that I played. I loved Renala and I loved Godric. I thought they were both great.
Yeah, they were very fun. They were definitely some of the best fights in this game. But are they Maria? Are they Lawrence? Are they Manus?
I would say that they are comparable to Ludwig. And Ludwig's a fucking good boss.
I didn't get any Ludwig. I guess Godric and Morgott would be the two that got close to that for me.
And there's not even like a cleric beast. You either have the numbers to demolish the boss and it's uninteresting.
Yep.
Or you don't have the numbers and it's not fun.
Yep. And that's another thing. And this is okay. And Rage is going to say open world game design caused it. And open world game design did cause this, but open world game design does not have to cause it. But their first try at it, they fucked up. Okay? They're trying to make levels weighty. That was a major complaint that they got back in the day. They don't want a level to feel insignificant. So they're trying to give you...
Dark Souls 1 nailed it.
Yeah, they're trying to give you regular levels as you're going through. Enough levels that you can feel like you've got a boost in power between the bosses. But in order to do that, and them trying to make it like that for every single boss, you get a ridiculous power creep. I think an open world Sekiro would have been better for a first attempt. Yeah, I 100% agree. The mechanics in Sekiro lend themselves so much better to an open world system. Dark Souls, and RPGs, open world, do not work.
We're not even talking about like combat mechanics. We're talking about how the player gets power.
Yeah, just the process of a player leveling up. So if you can assume a certain amount of player growth to get to each boss, you have to have each boss kind of bump up a certain amount in power. So now you're expecting a player to get a certain amount in an unguided area where you're just letting them go. So you no longer have a level to guide them to power. And that is what FromSoft is all about. That is always their strength. They are the level design gods. And they don't need a map. They don't need anything. They drop you in there and you're like, oh, I go this way. And just everything you need is just kind of in front of you as you're going because the game is beautifully designed. Now they're dumping you into a field, but they're still trying to account for that power gain. You're not finding the power creep too bad, but you're just at the mountaintop of Giant Pass, the capital. That's where I felt it the worst. But if you do your earlier areas out of order, or you don't explore them completely fully and just do the parts you want to and try to move on, you're going to feel that power creep much, much worse. Like if you go to Caelid right at the very beginning of the game, you're not going to have fun. It's not a good time. You're just going to get eaten by everything in 1 or 2 hits. And the very first time you play the game, sure, it's interesting because you're like, wow, this area is interesting and I've never seen this before and I'm exploring it. But the second time, you're just going to be like, I'm not going there.
Fuck that noise. The big thing that I think really hurts the game is the fact that they point you to the boss. If they didn't point you to the boss, I wouldn't have nearly as many problems.
I think, honestly, they should point you to the south. Vaguely.
When you come out of the church or whatever it is, just have it facing the other direction.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah. And then don't guide you anywhere. Don't even give you the grace right away. And just let you explore. See, player conditioning, all right? And we've talked about player conditioning before, and player conditioning is super important and something that they do fuck up on a lot. We talked about how they fucked up on player conditioning in Dark Souls 1 before by giving you a shield first. You've just taught the player, here's a shield, hide behind it. This is how you play the game. And using a shield for most of Dark Souls is the wrong solution. But that is where people default, because that is the first thing they're given. Your outside tells you that the grace might be pointing to your death. Yeah, but you have to go to your death. That's the point of the game.
Like, you're going to die a lot.
Yeah, the whole point is to go die. But it's backwards. You're conditioning the player right away that you're going to be guided in this game and to follow the guidance. That is your first lesson. Here is your guidance. Here is your direction. No.
To reroute the area.
Yeah, so we're not talking about the fate and the golden arc pointing south, just the cave looking south. So you have a general southern direction at the very beginning of the game, thus pointing you towards that southern Leonin boss.
Because there is grace that points you down there as well.
Yep.
So if you had found that one first, rather than going to the church, you would have gone to a boss that is more appropriate based on the stats that you have and based on the area that you're fighting in.
Yeah. And then you have a much more natural power curve and a much more natural power feel, and you're going to have less people bounce off the game that way. You're going to have people bounce off of the game because they get to Margit first and they're used to a more linear game and they stop because they hit a wall.
I almost stopped.
Yeah. They're very different styles of play, and you have a large audience for this game that is not your standard traditional open world audience, and they are not doing it in a traditional open world way. They've definitely taken their own from spin on open world. I can see all the differences. It's not the same.
Which is why I made it as far as I did, but...
Yeah, I mean, there's way more wonder in this game. This is the closest to, like, WoW vanilla I've ever felt. Where I'm, like, exploring areas and worried about my life and, like, seeing these fantastic landscapes and going, oh, what have I found? But Elden Ring ended up feeling like I hit something in an area and I'm like, ooh, what have I found? And then I hit something like, oh, I'm really not supposed to be here. I'm not welcome here. My numbers aren't big enough. And I've got a solution for that. I came up with a really interesting solution. I found it in old night... I told you about it.
You told me about it, and then we refined it to the point where if it was implemented in Elden Ring, it'd be fucking great.
Yep. We refined it, but I found it in old 1990s DOS CRPGs. That's where the answer lived. And if you want to know what the answer is, you should definitely come to Everything Wrong With and How to Fix It. That's all I'm going to say on that. We're reviewing it.
It would be really good. It would be really good.
Oh my god, I think the game would be an instant 10 times better and just enjoyable all the way through for me. It would just fix so many problems, and it's so simple. Oh, it's so simple. I love game design.
And as usual, the simplest solution is usually the best solution.
Yep.
But as far as mechanics go, for our sum upage of that section of the review, I would say that it is it's a natural evolution over the Souls formula, and it does a great job at introducing new mechanics to the game.
Love the additions.
Absolutely love them.
Love the jumping, love the jump attack, love the stagger into a riposte.
Love the shield counters.
Oh, guard counters.
Guard counters are sick.
Oh,
they're so good.
It made heavy armor, heavy shields like viable. Like Dark Souls 1, a big tower shield and heavy armor and heavy weight stance.
There's no point.
No, why? Why?
You take your big weapon and you take all your clothes off, and then you just roll and poke, and it's better.
Very different playstyle in this. It's a lovely case study. We could almost do a case study on the changes to combat approach just by adding these extra couple mechanics to raw combat. It's a really remarkable change that they've accomplished from it.
And we probably should, honestly.
Yeah, we probably should.
But
love the Ashes of War system.
Yes, also love the Ashes of War system. The new additions do fall flat about halfway to 2/3 through the game. They stop being useful.
Yeah, poor implementation. Lovely mechanics, poor implementation. Didn't use them well enough.
It stopped being good.
The affinity,
which is unfortunate.
Affinity system? You mean like how weapons scale?
Yes.
Yeah, that's old school from Demon's Souls. That's every From game basically. Yeah.
They made it usable, so you're not just pigeonholed into one thing.
Yeah. I should have diversified myself a little bit more, but I did get a fantastic amount of damage out of my mace. It's just not enough. Like my damage from scaling is 100 and something greater than my raw damage on the weapon. I have more than doubled the damage on the plus 21 Great Mace, and it still didn't do anything when I hit something. What? I love the sharpening system to handle all of the sharp and heavy and the way they approached that from what it was. So good. Many ashes ruin the damage. How did the ashes ruin the damage? Rage disappeared. I think he dropped. He'll be back. Well, if once you get the whetstone, they don't have to ruin the damage. You can put the blood ash on and then just make it a standard or a heavy or a sharp or whatever with the sharpening stone. That's what we were just talking about. It's wonderful that way, because you can use any ability and still just keep your weapon in any state you want if you find the right items. Keen. Yeah, this is my point. Right? You can still put the blood on and turn it into a keen if you have the right items. Zelo, welcome back to the table. So nice of you to be here. It is they've taken all of the versatility of the design of Dark Souls 1, 2, 3 weapon system and weapon modification system and made it like so you can play with it and have fun with it and experiment with it and not be stuck on anything, and it's really nice. That sounds like a bug, because I haven't experienced anything like that. Everything that I make heavy just becomes heavy and scales off of strength. Well, that's the affinity is the scaling. That's what we call scaling. Weapon scaling is the affinities towards stats, right? So what I'm doing with my mace is I'm making it heavy so it gets maximum strength scaling, and then I just went all in on strength. So like I'm not going to be able to scale much better than that thing. It's like an A scaling on strength, and I'm at 57 strength. It's like a truck. The area right before the area that I quit in, it'll like one-shot everything. I can't even stagger things because they die too fast. That's a big disparity. Okay? If I went from killing things in one hit, I would expect maybe 3 or 4 hits in the next area.
And that, I think that would be fair. Like, you know, you jump into this new area, you smack things around a bit, and you go, oh, wow, these guys have a good chunk more health. I got to go find some more damage.
But not the next enemy I hit has more health than the last area's boss. See, I'm all in on strength because I also have the Beast Claw Talisman, which allowed me to cast incantations and scale them off of strength. So I can cast all the faith stuff scaled off of my strength, as long as I have enough faith to cast it. So that 57 strength scaled real nice on all my spells. And it even boosted my bestial incantations even more. It was lovely. Yeah.
Oh yeah, great system.
Yep. Super cool.
It really feels like the physical damage in Elden Ring is underpowered.
Yep. I mean, even with all my incantations going and dropping buffs and stuff, it was just every one of my hits felt so unrewarding. I felt like I was doing a job rather than playing a game.
Which is not super fun.
Yeah, it was like being in a chain gang busting rocks on the side of a road, chipping away at the boss. And, you know, that's for the challenge runners. That seems to be what they want. You know how we always talk about make games for the average people and not for the top 10%? This is what you get. But obviously from what I've been hearing from the real hardcore open world fans, they're loving it.
Oh yeah. For people who are really into exploring a world and, you know, getting to go and see every little nook and cranny, sounds like they have a wonderful world to play in. But that's not me. I really enjoyed From's previous games, and this one, unfortunately, I do not enjoy nearly as much.
Left you behind a bit. Yeah, see, you see, you're looking at the enjoyment, and I've noticed that as well. This game takes a much greater jump into the world of status effects and abilities and buffs. With the Ashes of War, it's a lot more buffs and self-buffs, and, you know, all that stuff was much more scarce and much more about raw player skill and your ability to interact with the game rather than your ability to go and find everything and prepare yourself for the fight. That's more of a Monster Hunter loop.
Yeah, Monster Hunter versus Souls is very different.
Yeah, although they handle, like, the controls, if you look at the control scheme for Monster Hunter and Souls, they're damn near identical. The viewport,
very similar.
Damn near identical. They're both third-person action games. They both have roll. They both have, you know, the same controls. But the implementation of the mechanics, very, very, very different. People are just too good, so they had to find some RC way to make the game more difficult for them. See, this is what we were talking about before with making the game for the top 10%. It's not that people are too good, it's that there's a few famous people that are really good. And this game feels like it was made for them.
And plus an open world.
Yeah, plus an open world. And to its credit, you know, those challenge runners, they seem to love it. Lobos loves it. He said it was one of his favorite.
It is his favorite FromSoft game, which is awesome. Like they made a game that he loves to bits, and that's amazing.
Yeah, see, you're really, really drawn to the Padia style play there, Ash. You want that exploration and discovery. And that's why you play the games, clearly. You need it. And that's cool. I'm glad you've discovered it and keep playing games that you love. That's my say. But I think there was a lot of room for them to make this more palatable to the straightforward Ludus gamers, which is who their market was before. I love that they dove headfirst into the open world and tried something new, but I'm a little sad that they've kind of left a lot of their old audience behind.
Yeah, and I believe FromSoft will be able to make an open world game that I will enjoy. I believe they are capable of that. They are an incredible studio. They've made incredible worlds. They have great mechanical design. But this being their first one, it's a miss for me personally.
See, it's interesting that you mention the less health like Dark Souls 2, because the less health mechanic is actually in most Souls games, but the implementation of it in Dark Souls 2 is what made it feel so offensive and obtrusive. And it's the same thing that we always talk about with durability systems. It's about where the baseline is. Right, so with the health system in Dark Souls 2, you start here, and as you die, it goes down and down and down. But there is a minimum, and once you get down to that minimum, I found the game completely playable, and I didn't miss that health once it was gone. I just got used to playing with less health, and this is my new health total, and fine, the game's playable. And now once in a while, I get a buff, and I have more health, and eventually that buff will disappear. 50% is the normal 100%. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
But because the player's been
framing it.
Yeah, because the player's been conditioned for the 100%, they feel like they're playing with less health. If they had just given you half health and made the 50% the real 100%, let you go up to 200%, and then come back down to 100%, you would be totally unoffended by the mechanic. And it's the exact same mechanic. The illusion of less health. Exactly. It's all about player conditioning, and that one actually has a zero effect. This is why I say the best way to implement a durability system, if you want to, is have the weapons start at base 0 durability, and that's what they're tuned from, and then everything above that is like sharpening, and then you have basically Monster Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
But Monster Hunter can actually fall below the base, which can be frustrating, completely nullified by the ability to sharpen. And because the ability to sharpen on the fly is so quick and painless, it just makes it an actually completely pointless, meaningless mechanic. But that's for another discussion. You should do that, troll people, huh? I'm playing on 23 Vigor at level 101 in Elden Ring with a similar mentality, but you should go back to Dark Souls 2 sometime. 23 Vigor does sound incredibly painful. You're not going to be able to live through one hit of a lot of enemies at that.
I mean, is what it is, right? If you go in expecting to be one shot, then okay, I got one shot, sweet. I put all my stuff into damage, so I can do more damage now.
Yep. Melena's still going to be a bit of a cock block, though. That fight.
Can take 1 or 2 enough to heal up? Yeah, you got enough then.
2-shotted or 3-shotted at 40 to 45 Vig with 35 endurance. Yeah, I've actually seen some people hypothesizing that some of the damage may be based on your health. Because people with more vigor seem to take more damage. Like
and
that,
it wouldn't be the first time that FromSoft has scaled boss damage as percentiles.
Yeah, I've seen Val with like over 50 vigor take over 3/4 of his health in one hit regularly. Yeah, I'm not even talking about blood loss. I'm just talking about raw boss hits. Just raw hits. He's, 2-3 hits and he's dead at 50-60 vigor with heavy armor. He's got heavy armor on. He's got like serious armor. He's got a lot of endurance to be able to wear it. I found the same thing. In the northern area, I was in the big heavy Lionel fat black guy armor, and I was still getting hit for, 70-80% of my health with 50 vigor.
And it is something that they have done before.
Yeah. And it's great if you can wear it, but it's definitely not going into the heavy spectrum for it. It's just not. It's not scaled well. And again, all of this is trying to make each area impactful in level gain, with so many areas and no clear path on where the character is going. That's the crux of this issue. And the fix is so simple to help the straightforward path people, right? The Ludus people, the people that want that direct gameplay. And it doesn't interfere with the open world people at all. It wouldn't even affect your experience. If anything, it would keep your experience more crispy. Okay.
So come check out the how to fix it.
Yeah. I'm super excited about this idea. So we're going to go ahead and give the mechanics an okay.
Yep.
Because they do some things so well.
And other things kind of the opposite of that.
Yeah, and the things that they did really, really well just weren't really implemented that well in some cases. Except for Ashes of War. Keep Ashes of War.
Ashes of War are great.
Keep the Ashes of War system and keep the simplified weapon upgrade system. And I love the bell bearings that let you buy upgrade stones to level up the rest of the weapons. So you have one like fully leveled up weapon, and then you can keep a bunch of other weapons just slightly under it.
I do think the bell bearings need to be more easily accessible, though, specifically for the upgrade stone ones.
You tend to get them in the upgrade caves.
Yeah, except for all the times that you don't. Like, I had level 3 and 4 upgrade stones purchasable, but not 1 and 2. And I was using, I think, 7s?
I think you missed some.
Probably, but
I
didn't have them.
like potentially we're in the caves for them and missed them. Every marked upgrade cave, yeah.
That's entirely possible.
Bell Bearing 3 is in that Zather Ruins, only unmarked. Okay. Gross. Yeah, I do love that. You wish you could use weapon coating spell on non-standard affinity weapons. Weapon coating spell.
Well, you know why they do that, though. It's for balance reasons, because if you could just apply every status effect, then
yeah,
that's OP.
Already things are getting pushed past the end of the spectrum because they're trying to account for the range of potential damage and ability of players. And what's happening because of this is if you have a build that is on the lower end of the spectrum, the game just becomes a slog. Like, oh, my build hasn't gone well. Start over. Unless you just want to go around and re-explore everything you've already explored over and over, trying to find new things you've missed. Some people like that. I do not. That does not interest me. As soon as I'm like looking at the map going, been there, 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 and there's no haven't been there's, and I'm not liking the area I'm in, that's when I'm like, oh, well, next game. Games are fun. We love the new mechanics, but the implementations of some of them leave much to be desired. Too much to state. See the video. Yeah, that's all I can say on that. Games are meant to be suffered. Miyazaki was not allowed to play games as a kid, and thus he suffered for it. And now he wants to make all of us suffer too.
So, voice acting. Overall, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, voice acting, always good. Always good. No expense spared. Voice acting was great. With lots of emotion and character.
And I mean, there's a ton of characters in this game versus other From Software games. Just a ton.
There's like as many in this as all the others combined.
And they're all really well voice acted.
They are.
All of them.
Yeah, I love it all. I love them all.
Some of them are a little similar just because there are so many, but they're all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
You know, sound effects also fantastic. Completely agree.
AI/enemy behavior.
Okay.
I lean towards good because there was a lot less times where I'm waiting for them. The problem is the mechanic.
I did not have that experience.
I only really had one time I remember. And yeah, it definitely never broke. It's competent, but okay is competent, right? Okay is competent. That's what okay means. Okay means it's totally acceptable and works just fine in the game. Okay is an acceptable rating. So if you're saying competent, sounds like you're saying okay. It analyzes much like in a fighting game. Rage's complaint majorly, typically in these, is the lack of aggression of enemies, because you are not allowed to make the opening attack in these games. That is not a possibility. Your recovery time and your attack speed and everything is too slow. You're just going to get instantly punished if you make the opening attack. So all the time that you have to wait for the enemy to make the attack so that you can respond to it is just dead time. 50-50 for you. There's some times where it feels like it's mocking you, like using the same ranged spell while you try to heal 3 times in a row. Yep. Don't heal in that situation is what it's trying to teach you.
And like, heal punishes are fine.
Yeah.
It's just how aggressively the enemy behavior trees are tuned to go for both a roll catch or a heal punish. Like that seems to be their priority. And most of the bosses are designed around having roll catches built into their combos. Like, I fucking hated the dog. Oh my god, I hated the dog in Ronaldo's place. Because everything he does is a roll catch, and he puts you into no-win situations because he has delayed projectiles.
Interesting. See, I always considered that mechanics, but with enemy behavior being part of this, that is definitely under enemy behavior, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's not a good. But they were more aggressive, and there was a lot less downtime in this game. It's not 0.
Compared to what?
Dark Souls 3.
Compared to Dark Souls 3, yes.
And 2, I'd say even. I remember having a lot of times in 2 where I'm just circling around an enemy.
You can initiate in Dark Souls 2.
I couldn't, but that's okay. Dual wield UGS. Well, I guess the dual wield UGS. If you initiate with the dual wield UGS, you better fucking initiate right.
It punishes you if you don't do it perfectly, but you can do it.
This is true. And yeah, in a lot of cases, you cannot initiate because there's no interaction with. Other times it feels like you're cheesing their attack patterns, no problem, or having a DPS race. Yeah, you being a caster, you're taking a fairly different approach to it. And casters sound like they're having an okay time with it, though I've seen some casters trying to argue that it's just as hard with magic as it is with melee. No, it's not.
Yeah, go look at the Sword of Night and Flame. It's way easier.
If you try to heal, the enemy is at range. They will either 1, gap close, 2, stagger, cancel with projectile. Yep. The enemy is designed and programmed to try to stop you from healing as much as you're trying to stop it from healing. Which is fair. And you know what? If you had a ranged attack that you could hit the enemy with whenever it tried to heal, and it was just standing there trying to heal, you'd probably just keep smacking it too. I would. Take this! But, yeah, just the design of a lot of it is more offensive than the implementation of it. The implementation is fine. It behaves well. It does what they want. It doesn't break. The only time, I only remember one time the whole game, Rage, where I was thinking, do something! And that was against the adult Falling Star Beast. And it was only once.
Yeah, I can see that. I was having that problem a lot more in boss fights, and I think a good chunk of that is because I was so much lower level than you, that I could only take advantage of situations where I knew that I would be able to get an attack in. So it would be like, come fight me, I need to get you into the right position.
I killed Falling Star Beast with a great two-handed Great Mace and just rolled through all of his attacks and smashed him with the Great Mace until he fell over and over again. I actually had a lot of fun with Falling Star Beast. I actually rather enjoy the Falling Star fight other than one attack from the adult. The other ones don't have that attack. The adult has it, and I just haven't found a good way to... Which AoE attacks?
AoE?
Because if it's the... I mean, there is that one AoE where you have to run away from. Well, it's not that lingering of a hurt box. You can see the distortion of like where the gravity is, and there's like rocks all in the air, and you just wait for that shit to go off. I agree, it's not the most interesting of attack.
That third spike is pretty brutal.
The third spike is larger than it, and you have to be at a run speed to properly avoid it.
Or jump.
Oh, I never even thought of jumping. I treated it like Rom's projectile spell and just ran outside and went drop one, and as soon as the third one was about to drop, sprinted right at him so that it would drop behind me, and then I did a jumping attack into his face. Every time he did it. Take that. You like maces to the face? I'll keep giving you a mace to the face.
But yeah, that was actually a pretty good fight. Like I've seen a couple of people fight it now. I think it's well tuned.
Yep. You do not need to roll. 100% do not need to roll. I promise you. I ran straight line. If you're arcing in your straight line, you will be in the thing still. The box is too big. But if you are at a straight line run, okay, you can say that, but I did it without it, and I have it on video. Is improved. I like the more aggressive enemies for less downtime. However, overuse of roll catches
And heal punches.
You can't run straight in Elden Ring. Yeah, I didn't have any problem with it, but you do have to get the camera just right, and I got good at having the camera there as I make my turn and then just sprint straight line, straight at the beast, and drop it behind me, smack him in the face. And heal punishes, makes for a less interactive and just less interactive combat. Mainly the roll catches I find, more than the heal punishes, makes for the uninteractivity, because those certain roll catches, you can't just be in close and dodge that attack, so now you're trying to keep yourself at a distance and just waiting for that opening, and that's what Manus felt like to me.
Yeah, we had very different experiences with Manus, and I think part of the problem that you had with Manus was because you had been spoiled by Sekiro and its beautiful boss design. It's
entirely possible. Manus definitely has a much more dated design, and I had the creme de la creme already. God damn, what a game. Boss, allow me to play the game. Yep. Most of the roll catches you found were times where the game wanted you to roll, then sprint, or the reverse. Yeah, there is always a way to get out of things, but maybe like one of the roll catches on Margit, my response to it was don't roll from the first attack, and I can just walk, and then with the other attack, that's the roll catch, I can roll for the roll catch, and they can't hit me. No, they do. Guarantee you they do. They may not be much of a response, and it's probably an uninteractive response that involves you completely backing out of the fight. But there's still a way out of it. It's just not fun. So the effect of that is going to be roll completely out of the area, which is a complete turnaround runaway. Which
or
is what
double buffer roll if it works out, but like,
yeah,
it encourages you not to engage with the boss, which is unfun.
Yep. Accessibility?
Okay at best.
I don't think there is any.
A good chunk of the keys cannot be remapped. You can scale mouse and keyboard stuff. You can invert mouse y-axis.
Only Y?
You can...
Oh, mouse Y.
Yes, mouse Y. X-axis. Oh, X-axis can also be inverted. There is XY inversion on controller. It supports any X input controller, which is great. Officially supports DualShock controllers, basically relying on the Steam API. Different volume sliders for music, sound effects, and voice. It does have upmixing up to 7.1 for gameplay. Cutscenes are limited to 5.1, which is whatever. Subtitles are there. That's about it. It's okay, especially because it doesn't support resolutions that aren't 16 by 9.
Yeah, I gave it a bad.
Yeah, that's fair. It's not very good.
There's no colorblind options at all. There's a lack of button mapping. There's no difficulty options such that if you struggle in the slightest with the controls, you're not going to play it.
And it's really low contrast. Like, it's just generally a really low contrast game.
Bugs. So those despawning dragons apparently weren't bugs. Apparently they're actually supposed to do that. However, other dragons were despawning but respawning because they were going out of their areas all the time. So when I saw another one despawn and then not respawn, obviously I'm thinking bug. Hey, Mole. Welcome.
Hey, Mole.
But that wasn't actually a bug. So I don't think I hit any bugs.
There are several crashes. There's all the problems with the performance.
Let's give it the bad performance. We won't fault the performance for the bugs.
There's several CTDs, and it requires greater than 1909 build of Windows 10, and it doesn't tell you that because it requires a bunch of DX12 features that weren't built in before that. There are also some issues with controllers not being detected when playing with the Steam input, which is bad. And apparently there is a way there is a way to remove the 60 hertz limit by running in borderless windowed. Interesting.
That could have ill effects.
Yeah, it really could.
So are we saying it's bad, or are we just at okay?
I'd say okay. Like the CTDs are bad but fixable. The requirement, if they have the if they have a prompt that says, "Hey, you need to upgrade to this version of Windows," then that's like not that bad. But you had that issue with something else. What were you playing where you had to upgrade your Windows version?
Horizon Zero Dawn.
Your Windows was just like, I don't need to upgrade. What are you talking about?
No. My Windows recognized that it needed to upgrade, but it wouldn't, and it would fail when it tried to do the update because of a corrupted update database.
Right.
You seen the refresh rate limit / borderless window thing in multiple games? Yeah. This probably has to do with how they're interacting with the Win32 API, which is still a thing.
Unfortunately.
Please go away now. Do we have to go 128-bit before we get with the Win32 API? And many reported crashes during play, but none that prevented game completion, game progression. Better word.
Yeah, EAC was giving some false positives, I believe, Daps. That's probably what you were getting.
Where's my Win 420 at? Sorry, I smoked it. RNG. Good again.
The only thing is loot tables, which is fine in an RPG. Good.
Yeah. Table-based loot drops. That is all. Abilities, upgrades, spells, etc. all predefined. You can go get it every time. And control was good.
Except for when it wasn't.
When
because
wasn't it?
The game would hitch and eat your inputs.
Oh, okay, yeah. But that's performance. Generally, when the game was running well and it doing the things that you were pressing, it did them very well. There was not a lot of confusion. There was one minor control issue that I believe they patched, where and it was the reason that Lobos was playing offline mode. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but if you were standing in a spot that had a summon and a message, you could not change your weapons. Because left and right would be to cycle through the messages, and it would take over changing weapon.
There was also one that was, if you were on a message or a bloodstain, you wouldn't be able to roll immediately. It would be like your character was 180 locked, except you weren't actually 180 locked. You just wouldn't be able to roll until you got out of range of the bloodstain.
That's a bug. That's not control. That's a bug. Yeah. The other one is just a control issue where button assignments have been used multiple times and priority is being given to the incorrect thing there. No, probably not incorrect. It's probably really what should have priority there, but it's still shitty if you try to do it mid-combat and happen to be running over one of them.
Yeah.
But still overall, very crispy. Very crispy controls.
When working properly. Feels great.
Use the button buffering to your advantage, and you won't have to complain about it. There you go. That's what we have to say to them. Good.
To sum up, writing is good.
Good.
Video is okay.
Good, bad.
The how bad the performance problems are knocks it down to an okay.
Okay. The audio
is good. Audio is definitely good, and the gameplay is okay.
Yeah. The video being okay, some people might scoff at, but when you talk about the terrible performance and the hitching and everything, it really affects the experience of it.
Especially when it eats your inputs.
But if you take a still shot of that game, god damn, it's pretty. Turns out Elden Ring makes a better picture.
What? And they even served it to you as a slideshow.
Oh, snap. All right. So, there's a bunch of people here. Any disagreements? I don't see a bunch of people jumping up and down and arguing with us. Where's this so-called 9.8 that all these other reviews are giving it? I don't see that up there.
Maybe they were only looking at the audio and the writing.
Maybe they only played 20 minutes of it and just looked at the audio